So in that one, for example, I think like the music, something like a circle to me. I seen a circle when I wrote that music. It's like a very classic symbol, like means like the circle of life, where planets are circle. Like there's something in circle. So I was like, this music is like that. And then I went on like a public domain films, went through like thousands of films, and start finding the visuals that I liked and things with circles in it. And then I collaged them together. Then it was like, the visuals complemented the music. It brought the music to a different place. Visuals told like another story in the music. Like I would say like it adds to it and becomes like deeper thing together.
This is Music Maker with Tyler Kline, a podcast from Loose Leaf Transmissions. Hey there, y'all, and welcome to another edition of the podcast. If you are new here, my name is Tyler. I'm a composer, broadcaster, curator, and producer who loves sitting down with creative people to explore how they make their work and what drives them to create. And if you've been listening for some time now, welcome back. I'm always glad to have you along. On this episode of Music Maker, I'm joined by Beyza Yazgan. Beyza is a Turkish pianist, composer, and multidisciplinary artist now based in New York City. And after earning degrees in Istanbul and Warsaw, she moved to the US to continue her musical journey at Mannes School of Music. She's also an illustrator and animator, creating surreal, stop-motion visuals that accompany her music. In this conversation, Beyza shares how improvisation became the bridge to her late but natural evolution into composition. We talk about how her Turkish cultural roots and global influences surface organically in her music, her evolving practice of blending music with visual art, and how mindfulness and attention to detail shape both her creative process and her way of moving through the world. She also reflects on releasing her internal critic, learning to trust her instincts, and how making art itself can serve as a quiet form of resistance. I just love this conversation, and it starts in just a moment. This show grows because of people like you, not some algorithm. So if something in today's conversation sparks something for you, the best way to support it is to follow the podcast and to share it with someone who'd get it too. You'll find links to subscribe, follow us on Instagram, or support on Patreon, all in the show notes or at looseleaftransmissions.com. Now, on to my conversation with Beyza Yazgan. Well, Beyza, I first learned about you and your music through your album that came out, I think not quite a year ago. So, and I was immediately captivated by the music. I've played it a lot on my radio show, and I've loved to be able to do that. But then you also you started posting like visual art in relation to that music, and as soon as you did that, I was like, I need to talk to Beyza. I need to have Beyza on the podcast. So I'm really excited to get to know you and get to know your work and what inspires you. And just thanks so much for your time today.
First of all, thank you for inviting me. Yeah, I think you were talking about the album, the Human Cocoon, that's I released like last year. And yeah, I love like doing visual things on everything.
Yeah, I'm gonna ask you a lot more about that probably a little bit later on. But where I like to start with these conversations is really as far back as you can remember, or as far back as you care to share. And I know that piano is a big part of your life, so you might have two different answers in a way for this first question. But I'm wondering, what is your earliest artistic memory I'll say as a composer, but I suppose also as just a musician in general.
So I started music when I was 5 years old. Like this is the oldest I remember was when I was singing in a children's choir. And like I have very vivid memories from that time, like singing. I think I was having so much joy. I can still feel it to this day, those memories with feelings. And I did that for 4 years. I didn't play any instrument at all, just singing. And the choir director was like, "Oh, she has really good ears, like seem to be having a lot of fun. Maybe she should start like an instrument." And then my parents were like, "Okay, so what would you like to play? Would you like to play an instrument like violin, piano?" They're just like randomly,
Yeah.
whatever, I pick. And I just picked piano. It was just very like easy decision. I don't know why, but I guess I just liked the visual aspect of it too. And then I started piano when I was 9. So it's a little bit late for how kids start nowadays.
Yeah.
They're
Right.
7 or 4. But once I started, I went into music school in Turkey. In Turkey, the conservatories start earlier than here. You can study part time when you're in like elementary school. So that's how I started. And I got in full time when I was in middle school. And it was kind of decided that I'm going to be a musician. And I studied all the way, to like did my PhD there, everything on piano performance and then classical music repertoire.
Are your parents musicians? I mean, it almost sounds like they were a little not like they didn't care, but maybe like laissez-faire, like, okay, well, you're good at this. What do you want to do? Like
Exactly.
almost like they didn't know like what to do necessarily.
Yeah, I think they're not musicians, but I think they loved music. Like there was always music in our place. And they would go to concerts every week. There was a Philharmonic concert every Friday, and they will take me to those as well. So it was just basically out of love. And I think after I started becoming more serious, they also learned a lot about music through me, like what it takes and yeah, how much you dedicate your life to that form. Yeah, so I was the only musician in the family actually. But I know that my mom sings all the time when like she cooks something,
Mm,
and
yeah, yeah, yeah.
she can find the right pitch, so she has the ear for it. But like her family didn't like give her like any music education thing. I think it's becoming more popular in our generation that kids study music, but back then I think it wasn't very common thing.
Yeah, it was like a new experience for
Hmm.
everybody. Yeah.
Yeah. Hmm. Yeah, so that's how my music life started basically with the school. So I wasn't really composing like I'm doing right now, like sitting every day writing new things, until like last maybe 3 4 years.
Interesting. Yeah.
It's very new, but it comes from improvising. So I was always improvising, but never putting them into a shape. Just happen and you forget about it.
I'm really curious to hear about this more then, because I mean, most of the people I talk to, I mean, sometimes people are like, yeah, I was in college before I started composing, and that's usually like the latest, but this seems like a relatively recent development for you. What kind of prompted you to begin, I guess, writing down your improvisations? And I mean, were you performing improvisation in front of people as well, I imagine?
I was, but not so often. Maybe like at the end of a concert, if it's like a fun environment, I will do it. Like get words from the audience like keywords and improvise on it just for fun. But I mean, when I was in like high school and college, I was writing songs. Like I would play classical music, and besides that, I liked like this like was a lo-fi style, like rock, indie rock type of music, and I would write things like that. I had a garage band on my computer, and just I was creating music,
Yeah.
but didn't put them out. I put one out, but it was just like very small things, not so serious, and so there was this creativity that I always wanted to explore more. But my focus, like I say, was on like performance of like studying all the great composers. It can take your whole life just if you're curious in it. Like
Yeah.
how can I play a better Chopin, Beethoven? So like you practice hours and hours. So when are you going to compose? It wasn't at the right time. But I knew always like at one point in my life I will start composing more. Like that was some I didn't know when, and it happened to be like I say, like 3 years ago. I think I was like, okay, like I played a lot of this classical composers and I will keep doing it. But let me put that aside and like let's see what comes out of me. And then of course I had to do a certain discipline to like sit down. Okay, I'm improvising and I'm writing it down, like recording, writing it down. So I brought it to notation, and then record album, and now I'm composing a lot more. So it opened up.
Yeah, that's awesome. So it was just kind of like you woke up one day and well, not like
Yeah,
suddenly, I don't want to like make it sound like a very like sudden thing, but
yeah.
it's kind of like there was just a moment where you felt like, okay, I've been wanting to do this thing for a while, and now it's time, and I'm gonna do it, and that was
hmm
that.
Yeah. And I think this is after pandemic too.
Sure.
Probably in
Yeah.
pandemic, there was like it was like coming to me, like
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
gotta do something. Yeah.
So, I mean, do you feel like your compositions have changed very much between, when you first started, writing them down to today?
I was actually just thinking that last week. I think it is changing. It is improving because like that thing about like how much time you spend on something gives you more like the skills, and you master that thing after like 10,000 hours.
Yeah, of course.
There's a book about it. Yeah.
Yep.
So, and I feel like every hour I put on, like I'm learning new things, but this is very it's not very conscious. It's just starts to happen. It's incredible. Like I guess I try to do better each time. That's also part of it. Like I never liked anything I did. Like, okay, this is it. No, there's always like some critic in me. Like, no, this can be better. And this is something like a curse sometimes, but it's also a blessing because then you get better, I think. Yeah, so it is changing, and I think it's kind of spreading to different sounds lately. Like I used to do just piano, now I'm exploring other sounds. So
Yeah.
definitely evolving.
I was wondering about that because your album is all piano music, and as a pianist, that makes sense. And there's a huge history of composer pianists, right? So I was wondering, maybe we can talk about that in a moment. But I'm really curious about like your encounters with composers over the years. I mean, when you were studying piano in Turkey, did you have any encounters with composer, or what was the first time that you interacted with like contemporary music or living composer? What did that look like?
So in Turkey, where I grew up, there wasn't many like composers to be around. So I went to Istanbul after I was like 12, but before that it was like it's another city called Bursa, and it was mostly, when you go hear a concert, it will be like the old things, basically,
Right.
just classics. But I can say that, like, uh, how I started like singing in the choir. There was one composer, Turkish composer. I guess we can say that's contemporary, but like he was writing music theory books or songs to study. I actually have the book with me still. That's how I started learning music. And I knew that this composer was alive, and he does very like Turkish folklore element in his music. So how I started music was very like in Turkish style, but Western classical tradition. So I didn't meet him, but I always appreciated that the songs we're singing was written by him. Like
Yeah.
he's living in Istanbul, I would think that. But I think like the contemporary composers that more like, you know, 20th, 21st century composers, the first time I encountered was at college. And that was the teachers there, compositions teachers. But I was more focused on like Chopin and Debussy. So yeah, it was more like I like more traditional things.
As a pianist, have you ever, besides your own music, have you played much music by living composers, or has it always been like this kind of like, not like you're putting it in a container, but like a very clear separation? Like, okay, I'm playing, Chopin, Beethoven, what have you, and then I'm gonna make music as well. But those kind of like, of course, they inform each other, but you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think I started playing more contemporary music by living composers when I moved to New York.
Ah, yeah,
And yeah, it wasn't a big focus when I was in Turkey. So I moved to New York 9 years ago. So we can say it's kind of a new thing for me as well. At school we had this new music lessons, and I was super interested in it. Or like free jazz, I took like improvisation classes at school. That's one of the turn points in my career, I think, is that taking that improvisation class. I'm realizing it more now, like how it affected me. Because after that, I felt like, oh, I can actually write those too. Like it gave me some type of like courage and opened my listening. Like I was more free when I took that free jazz improvisation class. So it started here.
yeah. It's amazing. I often say I would never claim to be a pianist, but as someone who goes through school and music, you have to play piano. And there was a point where I needed like credits. It was like later in my undergraduate degree. And so I decided to take jazz piano lessons. And that one semester of jazz piano lessons like totally changed how I thought about harmony to this day. And, it's like those moments and those courses that are kind of like, oh, I'm good. I need to take a class. I might as well take this one. And then it's like outside of the degree program and whatever you're focusing on. And then it ends up being so important. I mean, I think that's a hugely important thing.
Yeah, I think it should be mandatory actually at music education. Like, if you study classical music, it shouldn't just be that. Like, because at the end, I think all music interact with each other. Like, we cannot close one to from the other. So I'm super grateful for the teacher. Like a shout out to him. His name is Anthony Coleman. He's a great pianist. I don't think he knows that I feel like this, but this is the time I say it out
Yeah, yeah.
loud to the world.
We'll make sure he
So,
gets it.
yeah.
So, okay, so you went through your PhD as piano performance. You grew up in Turkey, but now you're in New York and you've been in New York for about the past decade. So, can you kind of like connect the dots for us, so to speak, and describe like the trajectory of your creative journey? I mean, do you feel like you followed a more conventional path, whatever that means to you? or were there any like unexpected twists? And I imagine that maybe there were some unexpected twists if, we're talking about composition and you just started, quote unquote composing, a few years ago.
Mm-hmm. I think I follow the conventional path. Now looking at like how much I studied, and then I was very serious about like studying it, and the twist was actually when I decided to move to New York. And I think my piano playing, my look at music and everything changed once I moved to New York. Plus, your whole life changes. Like you become a different person,
Oh yeah.
and so after that, I would say that's not unexpected, but I made that twist. Now I don't think I follow a conventional path anymore. Because like I started a new job of like composing for a music sound library, and so they commission new pieces all the time. So now I'm like writing a lot of music, but it's not like in a like classical style. Sometimes I have to write different things that I never thought of doing. Like can you write in this like 50s ballad style, like kind of something with the jazz feeling, and things like that I have to just like shape music that not very natural, but like just okay, I have to do this, so do it. So I don't think it's very conventional from all the music path I've been to. This is very different and new for me.
I hesitate to ask this question because I'm afraid it will come off in the wrong way, but it's just out of my own curiosity. With all
Uh-huh.
this in mind, have you ever like sat down and formally studied composition or even taken like a composition lesson with a composer?
No, I didn't. I'm actually thinking like should I take like some private lessons? I feel it like I started a piece that sounded like Bach, and I started writing some fugue. But then I was like, I would get stuck a little bit at some point, and I wondered, would it help to like get lessons? Like, would I become like faster to do this? It's in my mind. I'm thinking if I should, but there's also some beauty to the things that you try to learn by yourself.
Mm, yeah, absolutely.
So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see if I will take a lesson.
It's really interesting to me. And of course, like that's not a prerequisite for being a composer. And I've been very open about my own kind of beginnings as a composer they were very like self-taught and I kind of like figured out a compositional voice before I ever studied formally, and I only ever had like I'll say one real composition teacher ever. And so it's like I feel pretty good about like that, but then there's people who like somehow start studying composition as like 10-year-olds and they compose their whole lives and so I don't know, it's an interesting thing, but it's interesting to me that, without all of that, one, you've like put out an album, and two, you're like getting work as a composer. And I think that's like a really wonderful thing. I think that's something that we should be, as composers, we should be like talking more about that. You know what I mean?
Yes. Yeah, I'm reading a book that I found on a thrift store very randomly. Wow. It's called like Talking Music.
Oh yeah.
Do you
I
know that book?
I don't know where it's at.
I also have it.
I had to read that book for grad school.
Really?
Yeah. It's
Wow.
awesome.
Because it was like so random, and it's like conversations with John Cage, Philip Glass, Laura Anderson, and experimental American composers. I saw this like these are all the people like I love.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah,
How
yeah.
can they're in the same book? Anyway, I'm just reading this like every morning, and it's interesting to hear how all these composers like they're telling about their composition education. What helped them to find their own voice and things like that. So that came to my mind when you just asked about the education part of it.
So I read that book. It was required reading, but it was welcome reading on my part in my first semester of grad school. And I remember my teacher saying, all these composers are like, they're from like 50 years ago almost, maybe like 30, 40 at time. I think the book came out 30-ish years ago. He's like, someone needs to like do this kind of stuff again. And that kind of stuck with me, and that's kind of why I started this podcast. So,
Wow.
so it's funny that you bring that book up.
It's connected now, yeah.
Yeah,
And it's next to me right now. Like, it's
yeah.
like I love this book.
I don't see it on my bookshelf, so it must be in a box somewhere. But I haven't read that book, in like 10 years. I should read it again.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm just trying to get a grasp of everything. You're working now as a composer, and you're composing a lot, every day. And this is a question that I ask everybody, and I'm curious about your answer, because this is like a recent thing in your artistry. So when did you know that you wanted to pursue your craft as a career? I mean, have you reached that point yet? Do you feel like composition is the future for you?
Yes, I do feel like that. It doesn't have to be only
Of
composition. I feel
course, yeah.
like I probably go back and forth with like performing and like composing. But I think it's all in one package for me right now. Like playing the piano and composing, and other side of it is like doing visual things. It's all in one thing, and I think I'm in this path like till I die.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. If you really want to stay connected to what I'm building here, the best way isn't social media, actually. It's the newsletter. That's where I share new episodes, unfiltered thoughts about the creative process, ways to support the work, and whatever's coming next. You can sign up at looseleaftransmissions.com or through the link in the show notes. So you mentioned being influenced by both traditional and contemporary music, and also by sounds from all over the world. So how do you let those influences shape your work, without forcing them into the music? And you were talking a little bit about like you were writing a Bach like fugue, but then you kind of like took a step back a minute. And so, it doesn't seem like you're forcing these things, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes, like they all come like naturally. I think the subconscious comes out when you start writing music, and mine is all types of music. Like first of all, my culture and my bringing is we have Middle Eastern music, and it's totally different than Western music in a way that it's about the feeling. I think there's more melancholy that I feel in my geography's music. So I grew up with that, and then studying all those different composers from all the different countries, and I was always interested in like African music, Bayakan pygmy music, for example. Their rhythm is like so powerful to me, and Balkan music also. It's like my grandparents migrated to Turkey from Balkan countries, so there's that in me. And so many like Caribbean. Yeah,
Yeah.
I can go on. I always loved like hearing music from all over the world, and I think when you start writing, it is just there. You don't really plan it. It's like things you love just become sounds, and then when I finish a piece, then I can go like, oh wait, like there's this kind of feeling in this. And for example, in Human Cocoon album, there are some pieces with Turkish titles. The reason is like I write them and I'm like, this feels very like my own culture to me. Like there's something deep there. So I give the Turkish title because it's different than the others. Like, yeah, I think it just comes out. Never planned it. And it's good to listen to all type of things, and you never know how it affects your music.
Mm. Yeah, I always I don't know, there's that saying like you are what you eat. I feel that way about music. Like you are what as a composer, you are what you listen to, right? So like if I'm listening to, all kinds of like different musics, I don't have to like sit down and say, okay, I want to write like a classical string quartet that's inspired by hip hop. So I need to write like, it's like, well, I listen to a little bit of hip hop. So that's probably a bad example, but like I listen to a little bit of that. I listen to like alternative rock. I listen to folk music. I listen to all this different music that I love, and it doesn't have to like I don't have to plan that out, right? Like,
Yeah,
if I'm like sitting down at the piano and trying to figure out like these are the chords, the harmonic world that I want to occupy in this piece, that stuff will probably just happen, right?
yeah. And it doesn't have to show in the music you wrote. Like it could be just a title too, or like you put one word that feels like it comes from other genre. I don't know. Like there's other ways to put it all together, or like visuals. You can take a music video that looks very punk rock, but it's not
Yeah.
like in the music. Like you can blend all these things.
So I really love what you said about how some of your piece titles are in Turkish because they like make you feel like kind of at home and that sort of thing. And then, if not, like you have English titles. So being an immigrant from Turkey, you've said that themes of longing and Anatolian musical influences show up in your work. So first of all, for those who might not know like where Anatolia is, can you describe that? And also, I'd love to hear more about like what tells you specifically like, okay, this is music connected to my, I guess, heritage in some way.
And Anatolia is they call it Asia Minor. So if you look at the map, Turkey has like European part of it.
Yeah.
That's like Istanbul is there, and then the other side, Anatolian side. And Anatolia is the big word for that geography for like centuries, like all these different civilizations lived in Anatolia. So it's not like, oh, it's Turkey. When I say Anatolia, it brings all the past with it, like, Hittites or, Lycians, everything, every civilization lived there. So, and it's like layer by layer, in Turkish music, you can see all these cultures coming together. So it's not really Turkish in a sense, too. It's a mixture. So in my music, when I start writing and I hear something that's familiar, a tune, maybe it's the scales I used or some mood, I don't know. And it feels like you said, it feels like home to me. And did I hear this tune somewhere? I
Yeah.
sometimes feel like this, but I cannot find what that was. It's like a dream. So then I realized, oh, this is like from my like a mother language type of thing that comes out. Yeah, or like it could sound a little bit like Greek music. That's also part of Anatolian music when you think so. Then it's also home. Yeah, like that.
I mean, is this ever something that you like sit down and plan out? I mean, we kind of just talked about that, but is it that you only ever realize this after the fact, or do you sit down and say, okay, I want this to reflect Turkey in some way or Anatolia?
No, it's always after I write the music. And this is like the same for every time I sit down, I improvise and that's it. Like whatever comes from that improvisation, then I work on it. So music comes first, not the story
Yeah.
or the theme. Yeah.
Obviously, one can be a composer for many, many different reasons. But I kind of see my own role as a composer as, a fair bit of like experimentation has to happen for me to feel good about like what I'm contributing. So, just out of my own curiosity, do you feel like the music you write is necessarily trying to expand on the traditions of Turkish music, or is experimental in a way that blends your different musical influences. Just can you talk a little bit about this, or do you not think about it? That's okay too.
Now I'm thinking, like, am I thinking about it when I like, I don't.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
I think it's like very like instinct type of
Yeah,
thing for me, and then you accept what comes out of it.
yeah. I love that. And so can you kind of walk us through your process of like how does something go from an improvisation at the piano to a composition, and like what degree of separation do those two actions, I guess you could say? What do those what differs there?
Hmm. So improvising is like is a very instant thing, and like you can feel a certain way. Let's say like I feel sad, and then I feel an urge to express that, kind of like a therapy. And I sit down at the piano, something comes out, and I always record these things.
Yeah.
And then when I feel like there's like a certain thing I got in that moment, and I'm like really into it, then I try to improve that idea on the computer, sit down, start notating it. And as I notate, a new ideas start coming up, and then it takes a form. This this is basically what I do every time. Sometimes, like with this, I told you this new job, like I have to write something in a certain time,
Yeah.
and it's like it has to be a certain style. Then I need to sit down and like I start improvising just a little, just create some spark going on to get an
Hmm.
idea,
Yeah.
and then I work on it. It's like looking for ideas. You start writing something, it didn't work, and then I write something else, didn't work, and then like a puzzle, put pieces together, and then you have the piece. But personally, I love when it comes with like an easier inspiration. Like you can improvise the whole thing once. That's amazing. Then that piece is in the right place. Yeah.
Yeah, I was wondering, like, how much do these change, when you sit down and like start working through it? And it sounds like ideally they won't change at all.
Yes. It doesn't change much. Like in my album, Human Cocoon, I can tell most of the pieces are very improvisatory. Like I didn't have to like work on it too hard. I think that specific time that I was writing that, like my experiences during that time lead to that album. I should mention a little bit how it came out, that album, because it was like the time when there was an earthquake in Turkey, and I was like really, really feeling sad. Like, yeah, like shut down from the world. That's all I could think. Like every Turkish people was like that, and then I had this silence retreat thing I was going to like go to for the first time in my life, and I booked it a year before, and it happened to be just a week after this disaster happened. So I was hesitating, like, should I go? It's gonna be like so horrifying, like not to have my phone, like look at the news or stay
Yeah.
in silent. But I did it, and it was like a very profound experience in my life, to stay silent for seven days and just meditate. And when I got out of there, it felt like there was like a reset in my brain. It was so clear. And then I started improvising. When I got home, I started improvising the pieces that are in Human Cocoon. So I was in a different state, I would say. Like with that like hard time I've been to, and I try to resolve these emotions, and then somehow I had to express it with music, and it was very natural. Like folded very organically. So didn't have to change much in the music there.
I was going to ask you about your album because, this idea of the idea alone, but also, it's the title of it, Human Cocoon. It's such a vivid and emotionally rich title. And I mean, it seems clear that like that came from you were kind of in your own cocoon for those 7 days, right?
Yes, it's definitely related to that. I always loved that cocoon world. It's nice, like two O's, and as like a symbol as well. But human cocoon just, yeah, it just came to my mind. It's like, this is how I feel right now. I feel like I got transformed after this experience. So this album should be named that, like that.
Right. Right. I mean, it's such a beautiful metaphor. And I mean, do you feel like you came out of this retreat obviously you said as a different person almost, but like do you feel like as a different composer, as a different improviser, or like a different artist even?
I think so, because my focus was sharper. Like, we can easily get distracted, and I was like that. All of us, like, you cannot escape the distractions
Yeah.
nowadays. So I was totally undistracted at that time, and and I felt so great that seeing all the details in the world. Like, I was looking at a kiwi just for like so long, and like, wow, that fur, oh my god, the sticker says it's from Greece, like, and it started
Yeah.
connected with the kiwi. But then when you think about the whole world like that, in that sense, it's amazing. Like, there's so many little things. Every second, every sound, became very important. So from that experience, when I improvise, I'm staying more awake. Like, that's something that they call like mindfulness, right? So, um, and I think it's, yeah, now I know how it feels like to be fully mindful. So it is in my music now, I think, like, just staying in that moment and like listening every little thing in it. And yeah, I think it added something to my musical world in that sense.
Yeah. That's amazing. Hearing you talk about the kiwi, like, and the mindfulness of it all, you're getting me to think about I grew up in my hometown where I was born in Kentucky and lived there, up until I went to college, and then I moved away for basically 10 years. For 4 of those years I was pretty close, but and then I moved back for 1 year and lived kind of like in a more walkable area. It's not a very walkable place at all. And so suddenly I was like walking a lot, and this was also during the pandemic. I was walking a lot, and I was walking down these streets that I'd been driven down or drove down my entire life in a car and didn't think much of it. And then suddenly I was like seeing all these places that I'd seen my whole life, but seeing them in a different way just because I was like walking in silence and taking my time. And thinking about it now, it just kind of clicked for me. My music started to change that year, and it's been like changing ever since, like in that direction. So I don't know. I think that's I don't know. Maybe I need to go on a silent retreat.
Yeah.
We all do, I think.
Yeah, I'm sending all my friends like, you should do it, and
Yeah, yeah,
you should. But that's beautiful. Like, I think it's exactly that. Like, just it, you just click a button in your mind, just like paying attention. Then you're like, oh, I never noticed that thing, and it opens up creativity too, I think.
So one of the questions that I ask everybody, and usually, we've been talking for about 45 minutes, usually by the time we get here, this question has been answered in some way, but I'll ask you more directly. And that is, what would you describe as the primary pillars of your creative practice? So this could be, what kind of themes connect all of your work, and your creative practice also extends to visual art, which we'll talk about in a minute. Philosophies, style, inspirations, really anything like that is always
Mm.
kind of there.
It's history is part of it, like my cultural history and personal history. I always try to tell a story that either I've been through or my culture has been through, and obviously it's not like there are no lyrics, so it's very abstract, but there's always some kind of story in my music or a visual thing going on. And like I said, that staying in the moment is part of it, that I try to follow my instincts at that moment. I think these are the main important things. Like there's like spirituality in it too, like a way that's I try to get to somewhere that is bigger than where we are, that another plane type of thing. It's not necessarily very spiritual music, but like I feel a spiritual connection to it.
I think that's really interesting, that distinction of, because I also feel like art making of any kind is like trying to connect with something that's like intangible. That's hard to describe. And it doesn't mean that you're going to sit and listen to my music and, have a spiritual experience, though maybe you would. So, I mean, when did you start thinking about that, this connection to something, I'll say like maybe divine or intangible?
Hmm. Like always, I think I'm just curious, like what's this all about? I don't have one like organized like a religion thing in my mind. There's this just big vast universe, and
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
like, what's this all about? And it's like an everyday thing, like just it's very surreal in a way. Like, how is this happening? Like, how, like, we're all in this together, what's life, this like typical questions being human. And that's why I think I'm very interested in like Eastern philosophy. Like that's why I did the silent retreats, like Buddhism. It's not like a dogmatic thing, but makes you ask questions and connect to the world you're in.
Yeah.
So my spirituality is more like feeling connected with everything.
Yeah. And how lucky are we that we get to do that with like through music and art,
Mm.
right?
Yes, definitely. Like, super grateful. Yeah, we're lucky.
So you've said that if inspiration doesn't come naturally, it comes through work. And I love this idea of like not waiting around for inspiration, because if we did that, we would never get anything done, I think. But also like especially in the context, of making money of any kind on assignment as a composer, that's a really important kind of reality that we deal with.
Hmm.
So can you talk about what this means to you, the idea of inspiration coming through like doing the work itself?
Inspiration is like, I think, something you get every day if you like stay focused. There's so many things, like you walk on the street and then, oh, I hear this like leaf sound, and then it will be like, okay, like I want to use that rhythm in my music. Anyway, so then you go on and you have to do the work. Then maybe you start with that, the rhythm of the leaves, and then you put in another sound to it, or I don't know, a melody, and it opens up other thing. You give a break, next day you have another inspiration, and but you always have to put these in the work.
Mm,
And sometimes I feel stuck, like like, oh, I cannot get through this, and then it's kind of disappointing. You just want to stop working at that moment. But I feel like if you take a break, this is something I realized with experiencing it, and I sit down a little bit later and then something comes up. Like, so whenever, if I show up, something, an idea pops up. And when you're outside, not working, just look around and listen around, and it's there for you to use.
Yeah, the idea that like I don't have to have a pencil to paper in order to be working as a composer. Oftentimes the space I give myself, it does like that yields better results than if I tried to force stuff to come out on the page,
Hmm.
for example. So, yeah, but it's interesting hearing like that balance. Like it's like an ebb and flow almost where maybe you go for a walk and you accept inspiration, but then it's like, okay, but now I have to go like do
Yeah,
something with this.
yeah. A little bit like forcing is okay too. I think in that sense, like because
Yeah.
it will find its way. Like the actual idea you're looking for will come up.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Has your background in performance changed how you write music? Either in terms of like how it sounds or in how you think about like what a piece needs to do?
I think so, and I see it with the quality of sound that I really look for. And this is something when we study like classical composers, like you need a certain touch for specific composers, so you go into really detail of the sound. So when I write down even something very, very simple, like I'm playing 5 notes, like super easy,
Yeah.
but it's not about the pitches, like it's how I get that. Let's say maybe I want a warm sound that's mysterious, like I take care of each details, and I think comes from my performance background, like working a lot on the quality of sound. Obviously, like sometimes like I write an accompaniment part for left hand, and I'm like, oh wait, this is very like a Chopin from this nocturne, or like there's something under my hands that does it automatically from other composers. Not as complicated as their things, because I don't think I can do that like quickly. But as just like a memory, muscle memory thing goes
Yeah.
on. So I think it shows up in that way too.
You mentioned that like you're starting to write more for other instruments, I guess. So like how does that change the game? Like how does that fit into what you're talking about?
It is super inspiring, but also very hard thing to like have access to all the sounds in the world nowadays with all this like
Sure, yeah.
plugins that you can electronic sounds, because now I'm like realizing it's all about deciding what you want, because there's tons of like sounds you can use. And I think now I'm experimenting more with going into other instruments. I started writing for like strings lately, and it just becomes a different music all of a sudden. I think
Yeah.
I'm very used to just piano. I'm like, wow, like, and should I use a bass or cello? All this like the decisions. I'm in that period right now, just getting into more each sound and seeing where I can fit it in my style.
Right. Right. You said that you're interested in how music can create awareness of political issues, and I think that's something many of us are wrestling with as artists. I sigh because it's like every day there's something new.
I know.
But like the wrestling, it maybe isn't always like in a direct or message driven way, but more like in the sense of like how can music shift perception. So how do you approach that in your own work, kind of balancing like this awareness to political issues that you're talking about, but obviously like maybe not alienating people or, kind of making sure that you get that message across.
I haven't done ever political work yet, but this is something I am going to do for my next album. That's why this idea came up, how I can do it. And I think to make something political, you need a word for it. Like you need a title, or you need to say something with like a human language, like actual language,
Yeah.
not just instrumental, because it becomes like very abstract. Like, so I have one idea that maybe I keep it for myself for now, because it's for
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
next
For
album
sure.
thing, so it's
For
a
sure.
surprise. Yeah, bringing more like human voice to it.
Yeah.
But other than that, like how can we change perception, like politically? It's a very hard thing to do, obviously. Like there was a discussion, like I heard like a few weeks ago, someone was saying, like, is it really like worth trying to change things with art? Has it ever changed anything? Like those Picasso paintings about war, did it change anything? We're still in the same thing. And I mean, I understand like we can become like disencouraged about this. Yeah, it's not changing as you look at the world. It's going almost like going worse. But I believe in this like small steps, and like we evolve as humanity, and each of us have to do our own work in it to make it a little bit better. Like it's not going to be a big change all of a sudden. So I think even just like creating something very beautiful is a way of political act as well.
Yeah.
Just a resistance to the bad things going around. Or I also like writing music for social issues. You can put it in the title, so you just like people just see it, and it's just, oh, okay, this is about this. It's just like nowadays we just protest or post things on social media, right? Like, so it's like posting something. When you give your music a title that brings a certain situation, it's a
Mm.
reminder. I guess that's we could do that way. And yeah.
Yeah, this idea that like, well, art's never changed the situation, maybe, but also why are they taking away the funding? Why are they, trying to suppress the arts? It's like clearly there's like, you know, the bad faith political actors, I guess I'll say. They recognize that there's something, I think, very human and empathetic about art that they that I think empowers people. And why else would they be coming after artists, or like keeping artists from trying to make art, music, what have you?
I agree. It's like I think that's why it's already a resistance to create art.
And I love this idea of like I don't know, simply like putting something beautiful out into the world. I often think about my music, and I don't think my music is like overtly political, but I find that like I'm gravitating towards creating like a quieter, slower music. And that feels like such a weird act of rebellion, with
Mm-hmm.
all the
Yeah.
noise. And I don't know, I think there's space for kind of the loud in your face protest stuff, but I don't see people recognizing that like there can be quiet, kind of almost like subversive acts of rebellion as well, whether that is like a quiet art or a simple art, or like a covert kind of like programming or something,
Yeah,
what have you.
definitely. It's yeah, the quiet music thing is interesting, because I think like for example, the Human Cocoon album cover is a fungi.
Yeah.
There's like a reason for that, because it's like a very beautiful illustration, colors, like it's not a real fungi drawing, but a Korean artist made it with all those beautiful colors. I wanted to use it because like when we walk, like let's say just hiking, you can we don't really look into all the small things, right? Like, but if you look closer, like you might see that there's like a little like fungi there that could have those colors, but we miss it. All the small things. And I think the bad thing happening around the world is because we always try to get the big things, big power, big all that. And once we start paying attention to and like interest in like smaller things,
Mm.
I think then word will become better. And it's like quiet music is part of it too. It doesn't have to speak in volumes or be impressive or anything. No, it can touch something very deep in there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm.
Tyler here, and if you're enjoying this episode of Music Maker, well, just know that I've got a short form show called Micro Maker. Think of it as a distilled version of these conversations focused on powerful insights that you can listen to anytime. New episodes twice a week, Tuesdays and Fridays. Give it a follow. What is a piece of music, a song, a film, a book, or a piece of art, any kind of what I like to call artistic artifacts that changed the way that you thought about your work, even like changed your life?
Ooh, that's that's really hard for me because I read a lot of books, and then like I forget their titles. Like so I usually like thinking which book changed my life, probably all of them. Like, but you don't realize this. Like, it's change of perspective,
Yeah.
and you take something with you, but then you move on to the next book. So there are many, but I will just say like the latest one
Sure.
that
Yeah.
really helped me a lot is Rick Rubin's book,
Oh, it's so good.
Creative. Yeah. It helped me. That's why I have to mention it. Like when I started writing the album, like the times when I felt stuck, this book was like my, go to. And I would read a little bit and then keep going.
Yeah, I feel like that book is like full of, and then I see it like on Instagram all the time, like just quotes.
I
It's
know.
just like every like other sentence is like, get that tattooed onto me somewhere.
And it
uh,
got so big. Like,
yeah.
in I think I found it like just randomly when it just first came out, and I got it because I liked the look of it. Like I had no idea what that is. I bought it, and then anyway, like I went to LA a few months after that, and every store had it
Hmm.
like next to the cashier. Like it's like creative Bible there, and yeah, I see why.
What is something from that book that has stuck with you that kind of like, I know there's probably like a lot, but
Yeah.
if anything that comes to mind that it's kind of like, okay, yeah, this is like tremendously helpful, or like maybe set you in a different direction.
Um, I don't remember exactly, though. I think there's one thing about and success. I think it was about success. Like, what's success when you like create something? Is it like after you put it out and if people likes it, that's a success? That question. And it was about no, it's not like it's not about the outcome. If you finish that work and let that go, it's a success. And that was really important for thing for me to internalize. And it makes you write more music in that way. Okay, like this is great. Then next thing.
Yeah, I also love that idea, and it's so hard. Like it's so
Mm-hmm.
hard to like internalize that, and that's a question I ask people sometimes is like, how do you measure success? Especially like if I'm talking to someone who's not a composer, because I feel like I have a good idea about like how do you measure success as a composer, but even that's like, I don't know, there's so much like, it's like everyone's fighting for engagement online. Everyone's fighting for the same opportunities or the same jobs. And it's like, okay, but if I don't win this thing, how can I like elevate myself to like, it's like, that's like not the kind of success I want to feel good about, because the unsuccess of that feels not good. It's like, but then like if I finish a piece and it's like, okay, something changed in me with this piece, that's like a huge success. That's maybe even more important than the external success.
Yes, and it's hard thing to do, right?
Hmm.
Like especially nowadays, yeah, we just see how many people liked something. Like, who cares, right? It's
Yeah.
like,
Oh, yeah.
but it's based on that, like playing with our psychology in a way,
Yeah.
reward thing. Like it's about the amount, but it's not.
Yeah. Again, silent retreat might be
Yeah,
the,
go
the
for
right medicine.
it.
Um, so one thing that, again, I mentioned this like right when we started talking, but one of the things that really pulled me into your work was this like stop motion animation that you made for one of your pieces from Human Cocoon called Passage, which is I'll link to this video because it's like one of my favorite things I've seen recently. But so I'd love to talk about this aspect of your artistry. I mean, what was the spark for combining those visuals with your music, and did one of those come before the other? I imagine the music maybe came first.
Hmm. Music came first. Like I said, like every music creates something visual in me. So the animation I made was a little bit different this time. Like the vision wasn't very clear. I didn't know what was it exactly. I didn't see it. But another, like it came through work thing. So I did that animation by like collecting so many old books, so many, and then I would go through like this like public domain
Yeah.
pictures in it, like old paintings or like sculptures and things like that. And then I started cutting, hours and hours of cutting. And I had so many characters, like backgrounds, Then I started doing collage, created scenes, and then it started to create a story, like very surreal story though. It's not like direct story. It's something in my mind, and I followed it. After that, like created the setup for animating it, and I think it's like 3 minutes long or something like that. So it took a very long
Oh
time
yeah.
to make that. But I love doing that. Like animation is something that I would do if I wasn't a musician. The story in that animation is like I thought about, the Mario game back then, the Atari. I used to play that a lot as a kid, and there was like you were constantly running to something like obstacles. And the main theme for this animation, I want something like that. Like go on a journey and things happen. And at the end, the piece is called Passage in English. Passage is about like a change, like you transform into something else through the journey you have been to. So the main thing was that in the animation, like at the end, you transform to something else.
And so was this like your first time working with stop motion animation, or had you done that before as well?
I done it before, though. Like I've never spent this much time
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
animating. I've done it for like two music videos for my songs during like high school, college times, but like there are not near this one. That's how much time I put on. I at some point I thought about like changing my career to become an
Oh,
animator.
interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, but then I was like, okay, no, it's actually back to music. It was like a very short period, I
Yeah.
considered, and then no.
So, so obviously we're not going to like start this interview over and talk all about like illustration and animation, but I am curious. Like, this seems like something that has also been a part of your life for maybe like your whole life. And of course, like usually we have like crayons and we're drawing stuff before we play music. I think that's most people's experience. So, I mean, like, when did this like interest of yours in visual art first begin, and for it to get to a point where it's like, okay, I think I might want to do this as a career instead of music? I mean, like, what was that like?
So I have my notebook from elementary school, and I look at it, all the drawings I made there. Like, it's so interesting to say. I don't remember that I was doing them, but I was really taking care of like writing the notes and then drawing something related to that,
Yeah.
coloring them. So I always loved doing visual things, and I think it started from there. And then, I love seeing art. Always love going to museum, and like, or like as a kid, they looking at the magazines, just like the visuals, you
Oh
would
yeah.
just like get in there, right? Like, and I think it's always in me. I still feel that way, like looking at the visuals, imagining to be in that place. So I will just do illustrations like that, and watch a lot of animations. It all started probably cartoons as a kid,
Sure. Yeah.
love them. And then I got into this, watching Eastern European animations, stop motion animation. They're so good. So this, considering like should I do animation thing, was like I studied in Poland, Warsaw, for a year, and they are also very good in animation, stop motion animation, and also like Czech Republic. One of my favorite like animation director is from there, and in Czech Republic there was this school about puppet stop motion, and I applied to it there. I don't know why. I just I got accepted. Then that was like, should I go there or should I
Yeah.
stay with, that was the decision part. And yeah, then I moved with music because like I spend more time with it. Yeah, but now I'm trying to do both. Now I'm trying to improve on animating. I will do more for sure. And that's also something like I think I need to keep doing and get better.
Yeah, I feel like I have like a million questions about this, so I'm going to try to focus in on a few of them. Um, so stop motion, I guess, is kind of it's kind of like an analog based. I mean, I'm sure you're bringing it into like a digital program and putting it together in some way, and then obviously it goes up on the internet and that's all digital. But it seems like it has like it starts in the analog space. I mean, do you mostly do animations that are analog oriented, or do you ever like start something in a digital format?
I did one in a digital format with like graphic tablet. Like I draw on the tablet, and it was just black and white. It's okay. Like I'm not interested in digital work as much as in analog one,
Yeah.
like handmade. So yeah, I prefer to do like with either like the paper animation, like in passage animation. I like to move the characters like inch by inch, and like, yeah, there's something very human about it. And I also like seeing the mistakes happen. You're like, oh, there was a shadow of this, or there's a hair left in there, and
Yeah,
then the
yeah, yeah.
next frame you don't see it, or something moves. And I like seeing those in animations too. Even like some like big ones sometimes see it. I have it, so I think it's a beautiful part of the stop motion animation, and
Yeah.
those like little mistakes.
And you kept using the word like story, like it tells a story of some kind. I mean, do you feel like all of your work in this medium, do you feel like it tells a story? Is that important? Or do you ever just have like, I don't know, we always talk about absolute music. Do you ever have like absolute animation? Is that a thing?
Never thought about it. I think when you have visuals, it doesn't always have to tell a story in a way, if the visuals are interesting enough. Like the things I do is very surreal in a way. Like, the collage art
Yeah.
is something that you can go crazy with. So there wasn't much story in that. Like I said, it was just like following a journey, and weird things happen in that journey. No reason. But I can say I'm very, very influenced by Terry Gilliam if you know, like Monty Python.
And that's where my mind went, like, when I first saw the music video to Passages. This reminds me
Yeah,
of the opening to Monty Python and all those, like, kind of
exactly.
interludes that they have. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the same technique
Right.
basically, and I'm a big fan of
Yeah.
Terry Gilliam, so it definitely is in it.
So with all of this in mind, I mean, how do you think working with the animation and illustration has maybe changed the way that you hear music, or even like the other way around? Like, does music change the way that you put together your animations?
They do interact, but they don't change each other.
Mm,
Okay?
yeah.
I- If I collaborated with someone, either in music or animating part of it, then I would say like it will be different because someone else's vision will be in it. But when I do both things, just from my vision, I feel like they just like blend in. If
Yeah.
that makes sense, like they don't change each other. It's like one
Yeah.
thing in my mind.
Yeah, yeah, I understand. So, like, in the case of Passage, it's, the music came first, and then the visuals just kind of like came naturally out of that.
Yes. I also have other video I made. I don't know if you've seen that one for the track called Question, the first track of the album. So in that one, for example, I think like the music, something like a circle to me. I seen a circle when I wrote that music.
Mm,
It's like a very classic symbol, like means like the circle of life where planets are circle. Like there's something in circle. So I was like, this music is like that. And then I went on like a public domain films, went through like thousands of films and start finding the visuals that I liked and things with circles in it. And then I collage them together. Then it was like, the visuals complemented the music. It brought the music to a different place.
yeah.
Visuals told like another story in the music. Like I would say like it adds to it and becomes like deeper thing together.
I've spoken with composers recently who feel that, and I kind of agree with this, and I'm also kind of lazy, so I don't agree with it. But that, we're kind of entering an era where when we present concerts, for example, it can't only be music. It has to be like music plus something else, which, in your case could be, music plus animation. I mean, when you perform for people, your music, I mean, are there visual components to those performances?
So I think differently about performance.
Okay. Yeah.
Um, I think sometimes visuals get something out of music when it's performed. Like it's a different situation with video. Like you consume something just sitting and looking at a screen. But in performance, sometimes I just like that, just pure. I just focus on the sound and like that's just music, someone playing it. Like lights are different. You can have like lights going on, but like sometimes I see some concerts, there's so much things going on and it's almost like I'm gonna have like some sort of anxiety from like
Mm,
having all this
yeah.
together. Like I prefer, can I just like focus on what's playing? It's distracting me. It has to be really, really good, I think. Like the trick is like having something not getting out of the way of music. And I think that's hard to do.
Yeah. Right.
So I don't use visuals.
That's yeah, that's interesting. So, I mean, with all this in mind, I mean, do you think of your art, and this is both like musical and visual pieces, do you think of them as being self-contained, like piece by piece, or are they all part of like a larger thread or an ecosystem that you're kind of building over time?
I think it's an ecosystem. Yeah, I think they all related to each other at the end. Like it's like someone's life story. That's how I
Yeah.
see all the music. when I look back at it, it will probably be like, oh, this memory, and this memory, like they will be part of one thing, which is like my life.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. And to that point, like I mean, I again, this feels like a weird question, but it's a direct question. So, I mean, and you need these things. You need like composition. You need the animation. Like you could not be just a pianist alone.
Yes, I cannot be. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I've never thought about it, but now you ask, I'm like, yes, it's the direct answer.
It's that simple.
Yeah.
So getting into my final questions, these are just all questions I always wrap up with everybody, and it's interesting to see how people respond in their different ways or similar ways. And so, kind of kick things off with you kind of alluded to this earlier, so I'll kind of change my question a little bit. But what do you think you would be doing artistically or otherwise if it wasn't composing, and also like if it wasn't animation, performing? If it was something totally different from what you do now.
Ah, okay. So I think I would love to be involved in some scientific research about nature, animals, or archaeologist would be nice too.
Yeah.
But yeah, animals, like some of the books I read about just like, how animal senses work. For example, these are like super inspiring for me to learn. Or the sounds animals make, like, their senses. So I would love to do something around that. Spend time in nature, actually, that would be a great job.
Yeah.
My favorite animals are orcas, for example. And I still have this dream of like doing music with an orca. It's like,
Like whale song or
it's like collaborating. Yeah, maybe put in like this hydro microphone. Is that what they call?
I
Like,
think so. Yeah.
yeah. So like, and then play some piano. Maybe they interact. Like, going to British Columbia where there are so many orcas. Yeah, like would love to like research them, for example.
Yeah. And then like the collaboration would be like on a boat, like with a
Yes.
yeah. Well, I mean, they put pianos on cruise ships, so this should be
Should
pretty
I
pretty easy to
start working in a cruise ship and then they will fire me because I tried
you collaborate with the
to.
whales. Yeah.
uh, yeah, something like that.
So, what are you trying to get better at in your creative life right now? And that could be like the totality of your creative life.
Probably it's a very personal thing that I want to improve is this critic in my head. I would love to work on it to become more or I would say less critic. Just okay, like, this might not be the way you hear. Like I would love to just accept what comes out quickly. So I'm working on it. Like, I used to sometimes if I write something, like I don't want to hear this. Like I will just block it. It wouldn't be too bad, but it's that critic in my mind, like you can do better. So I'm working to collaborate with that voice in my head. Yeah.
Yeah, and of course, like as the saying is, we are our own worst critics. It's like we're going to notice things in what we do that others don't notice. I tend to think of like I've I have two wolves inside of me.
Yeah.
not to not to use that. I have two parts of
Mhm.
of my creative being, which is like the person who creates, and then there's an editor. And I have like it takes so much work to like know when to introduce the editor. And it's like, and I think about it like if I'm writing like writing words, not writing music, but like, if I sit down to write something, it's like I just write and then I go back and I proofread it. And it's like if I can do that with words, I can try to do that with music and not let that inner critic get in the way too. I mean, it's important, but if you let it in too soon, it like keeps you from getting anything finished.
Yes.
Truly. Yeah.
But it's very inspiring that you say like to like the editor and the writer. I actually really like that.
Yeah. So is there a tool that you use in your practice that you think everyone should know about and that everyone could benefit from? And this could be a physical tool. It could be like a software. It could be a process, the way you do things, anything like that.
I found the best way for me that works to, to notate the improvisation that I play. So I have like a nice MIDI keyboard. So I started improvising on it, connected to a digital audio software, any of it. And so I improvise on it, and it's the MIDI creates the score very badly. But I found that it really makes everything faster now. So I can just put it in a notation software, then start like like editing or like adjusting it, giving it a form. This is very helpful for me. Like I used to play in the piano before and then record it. I feel like it made things go quicker this way.
Yeah, totally.
Other than that, I don't think I have a secret tool. Yeah, like I think like this is like having a notebook that you, whenever you get an idea, just writing it down. Like I have tons of like things I take a note of. Like that's one tool, I guess, like to keep the inspiration going. Or when you feel like, oh, I don't have anything to write about now, well, but you have tons of notes from the past, then you use one of them and then you go for it. Yeah.
For sure. So my final question, and this is, we've covered a lot of ground here. So maybe you've already shared something that fits into this question. What is something that you've never had a chance to say about your art that you've always wanted to share with people?
I would say it's probably my future works, like what I didn't share yet. Because it's not like a specific thought or like, I don't feel like there's anything I didn't share. Yeah, it's probably going to be in my next album, and then it also something that could change, right? Like every year we probably change a little bit, so that changes too. Yeah, so I don't really have an answer. I'm curious like what others answer. Need to listen all of the episodes.
Yeah. I won't give any away, but it is the most difficult question I ask. So so pretty much like stay tuned. Keep seeing where your compositions take you, and
Exactly.
the answer might be in those.
Yes. Yeah, I'm super curious about it too now,
Yeah.
What's gonna come out as the thing that I couldn't share yet. I probably don't know it too. So
Yeah. It's fair. Well, Beyza, thank you so much for your time today. Just really fascinating getting to know like your relationship with the art that you make, but also like how you approach all the different art that you make, and knowing that you are pretty much just starting your composition journey. I'm really excited to see where it takes you, and who knows, maybe we'll in like a few years we can reconnect and talk more about where things have taken you. So yeah, thank you so much.
yeah, thank you so much as well, Tyler. This was great. It's my first podcast too, so
Oh, well,
very special place.
glad to have you here.
Thank you.
Many thanks to Beyza for her openness and sharing not only her creative process, but how her personal and cultural experiences continue to shape the work that she makes across many different disciplines. You can find links to Beyza's work, including her album and visual art, in the show notes. I'm Tyler Kline. Thank you, as always, for joining me for this episode of Music Maker. The show is produced by Loose Leaf Transmissions, made for all ears, and you can explore more episodes and find ways to support the work at looseleaftransmissions.com. Thanks again for listening, and I'll see you here next time.